Good evening, and welcome. Tonight, we're going to take you on a journey through one of the most extraordinary years in scientific history. 2025 has been a watershed moment, a year when breakthroughs in laboratories across the globe didn't just advance our understanding of the universe, but fundamentally altered what we thought was possible. From the depths of the ocean to the far reaches of space, from the microscopic world of quantum particles to the vast networks of the human brain, scientists have pushed boundaries, shattered assumptions, and opened doors to futures we've only dreamed about. This isn't science fiction. This is science fact, happening right now, reshaping our world in real time. So settle in as we explore the discoveries that will define our generation and echo through centuries to come. Our first story takes us to the cutting edge of computing, where the impossible became routine in 2025. For decades, quantum computers have been the holy grail of technology, machines that could solve problems in seconds that would take conventional supercomputers millions of years. But they've always been temperamental, requiring near absolute zero temperatures and remaining error-prone. That changed this year when researchers at multiple institutions achieved what's being called quantum advantage at room temperature. Using a revolutionary approach involving specially engineered diamond crystals with precisely placed atomic defects, scientists created quantum bits, or qubits, that maintain their delicate quantum states at normal temperatures for unprecedented lengths of time. The implications are staggering. Dr. Sarah Chen, who led one of the breakthrough teams, explained it this way: "We've essentially democratized quantum computing. You no longer need a facility the size of a warehouse with exotic cooling systems. This technology could fit on your desk." But what does this actually mean for humanity? Consider drug discovery. In early 2025, one of these new quantum computers simulated the folding of a protein involved in Alzheimer's disease with such accuracy that researchers identified 3 promising drug candidates in a single afternoon, work that would have taken years using traditional methods. By October, the first of these candidates entered clinical trials. Or consider climate modeling. These quantum systems can simulate atmospheric interactions with a granularity that was previously unthinkable, giving us climate predictions accurate not just by decade or year, but by season and region. This isn't just academic, it's information that can save lives, protect crops, and help communities prepare for what's coming. The quantum revolution of 2025 also cracked a problem that's plagued cryptography experts: post-quantum encryption. As quantum computers become more powerful, they threaten to break the encryption that protects everything from your bank account to national security secrets. But this year, mathematicians developed new encryption algorithms that even quantum computers can't break, ensuring our digital infrastructure remains secure in the quantum age. Now let's turn to perhaps the most complex system in the known universe, the human brain. For all our technological sophistication, we've understood remarkably little about how consciousness emerges from the 3 pounds of tissue between our ears. That gap in our knowledge narrowed dramatically in 2025. Using a combination of advanced brain imaging techniques and artificial intelligence analysis, neuroscientists published what they're calling the first dynamic connectome, a real-time, living map of how information flows through the brain. Previous brain maps showed us the anatomy, the hardware if you will. This new work reveals the software, how thoughts, memories, and emotions actually arise from coordinated electrical symphonies involving billions of neurons. The breakthrough came from an international collaboration that deployed a new generation of brain scanners capable of capturing neural activity at both the millisecond timescale and the single neuron level. By recording from thousands of volunteers engaged in various mental tasks, and then using AI to find patterns in the resulting tsunami of data, researchers discovered something remarkable. The brain has what they call consciousness corridors, specific pathways and patterns of neural firing that distinguish conscious experience from unconscious processing. Dr. James Okoye, one of the lead researchers, describes the moment of discovery. "We were looking at the scans from a volunteer who was watching a sunset, and we saw this distinctive cascade of activity, starting in the visual cortex, then rippling through the parietal and frontal regions in a very specific pattern. Then we checked someone solving a math problem, someone listening to music, someone experiencing a memory. Different content, but that same underlying pattern, the signature of conscious awareness. This discovery is already transforming medicine. Doctors can now determine with unprecedented accuracy whether patients in comas or vegetative states are conscious and aware, trapped in bodies that won't respond. The ethical and emotional implications are profound. Several patients previously thought to be in permanent vegetative states have been shown to be fully conscious, and new communication protocols developed from this research have allowed them to interact with loved ones for the first time in years. The research has also accelerated development of brain-computer interfaces. By understanding how the brain naturally processes information, engineers can now design systems that work with the brain's native patterns rather than against them. By late 2025, paralyzed patients using these new interfaces were controlling robotic arms and computer cursors with a fluidity and precision that seemed like science fiction just months before. For 70 years, fusion power has been the ultimate promise: clean, abundant energy that could power civilization for millennia, with no carbon emissions and minimal radioactive waste. And for 70 years, that promise has remained tantalizingly out of reach, always, just 30 years away. 2025 may be remembered as the year that changed. In March, the International Fusion Energy Consortium announced that their experimental reactor had achieved sustained net energy gain, producing significantly more energy than it consumed, for a continuous period of 48 hours. They didn't just break even, they blew past it, generating 2.5 times the input energy. The key was combining insights from multiple previous approaches. The reactor uses a tokamak design, a donut-shaped chamber where magnetic fields contain a plasma hotter than the sun's core, but incorporates high-temperature superconducting magnets that only became available in the last few years. These magnets are far more powerful and efficient than previous generations, allowing for a more compact reactor design that's also more stable. But magnets alone didn't solve the problem. The team also developed an AI control system that makes millions of tiny adjustments per second to keep the plasma stable. Fusion plasmas are notoriously finicky. Think of trying to hold jello with rubber bands while riding a roller coaster. The AI learned to predict and compensate for instabilities before they could cascade into disruptions that shut down the reaction. It's like having the world's best juggler who can also see the future, joked Dr. Maria Santos, the project's chief engineer. The AI learned patterns that human operators simply couldn't perceive quickly enough to react to. By September, the consortium announced plans for the first commercial fusion power plant, projected to come online in 2032. More importantly, they've made the core technology patents available under a special global license, allowing countries and companies worldwide to build their own reactors without decades of reinventing the wheel. The geopolitical implications are enormous. Nations currently dependent on fossil fuels or vulnerable to energy blackmail will gain energy independence. Regions without access to reliable electricity will be able to power development without contributing to climate change. The era of energy scarcity may finally be ending. While physicists were mastering the power of stars, biologists were discovering that we've barely scratched the surface of life's diversity on our own planet. 2025 brought revelations that rewrote textbooks and challenged fundamental assumptions about biology itself. The story begins in the deep ocean, in the perpetually dark realm around hydrothermal vents 3 miles beneath the surface. Using new submersibles equipped with advanced sampling technology, marine biologists discovered what they're calling the shadow biosphere, entire ecosystems of microorganisms that use biochemistry fundamentally different from all other known life on Earth. Every living thing we knew about, from bacteria to blue whales, uses the same basic genetic code and the same 20 amino acids to build proteins. These deep-sea organisms use different amino acids and a genetic code with additional letters beyond the familiar A, T, G, and C of DNA. It's not life as we knew it, it's life 2.0, running on entirely different software but somehow still recognizably alive. This is as close as we can come to discovering alien life without leaving Earth, explained Dr. Jennifer Zhao, who led the discovery team. These organisms probably split off from the tree of life billions of years ago and evolved in complete isolation. There are distant cousins, but they speak a completely different molecular language. The discovery has profound implications for astrobiology. If life can arise and persist using radically different biochemistry in Earth's oceans, it suggests that life throughout the universe might be far more diverse and more common than we imagined. The search for extraterrestrial life needs to cast a wider net, looking for any signs of complex chemistry that shows the telltale signatures of evolution and replication, not just life that looks like what we already know. But 2025's biological surprises weren't limited to the ocean floor. In June, a team studying the human microbiome, the trillions of bacteria and other microorganisms that live in and on our bodies, discovered that these microbes are doing far more than we realized. They're not just helping us digest food, they're producing molecules that directly influence our brain chemistry, immune responses, and even personality traits. One species of gut bacteria was found to produce a compound that binds to receptors in the brain and significantly influences anxiety levels. Other microbes manufacture vitamins and neurotransmitter precursors in quantities that meaningfully affect our mental health. The research suggests that conditions from depression to autism spectrum disorders might be partly driven by imbalances in our microbial partners. This has led to a new frontier in medicine, precise microbiome engineering. Rather than crude interventions like antibiotics that wipe out beneficial bacteria along with harmful ones, doctors are developing targeted therapies that cultivate helpful microbes and starve out problematic ones. Clinical trials beginning in late 2025 are testing microbiome treatments for conditions ranging from inflammatory bowel disease to Parkinson's. Sometimes the most stunning discoveries aren't about the future, but about our past. 2025 delivered revelations about human history that forced us to reconsider who we are and where we came from. In the mountains of Tibet, archaeologists working at extreme altitude discovered a cave system that preserved artifacts and DNA from a previously unknown human species. Not Homo sapiens, not Neanderthals, not Denisovans, something else entirely, a sister species that survived until at least 40,000 years ago, far more recently than anyone thought possible. The skeletal remains and tools suggest these people, tentatively named Homo tibetensis, were uniquely adapted to high-altitude life, with physical features that would have helped them thrive in oxygen-poor environments. Genetic analysis revealed something even more intriguing. Modern Tibetan and Sherpa populations carry significant amounts of DNA from these ancient people, including genes that help with high-altitude adaptation. We didn't just live alongside this sister species, we interbred with them, and their genetic legacy helps their descendants survive and thrive in the Himalayas today. The discovery rewrites the story of human evolution. We used to think our family tree had just a few branches, Homo sapiens and maybe a couple of cousins like Neanderthals. Now we know it was a bushy tree with many species, many of which contributed to our modern genetic makeup. We're not descended from a single ancestral population, but from a complex web of related species that met, mixed, and merged over hundreds of thousands of years. Meanwhile, in Brazil, another archaeological team was using LiDAR, laser scanning technology that can peer through forest canopy, to map the Amazon basin. What they found astonished everyone. Hidden beneath the rainforest were the remains of vast pre-Columbian cities, some rivaling medieval European cities in size and sophistication. These weren't primitive villages, they were urban centers with elaborate road networks, sophisticated water management systems, and agricultural terraces that supported populations in the hundreds of thousands. The discoveries challenged the long-held view that the Amazon was a pristine wilderness sparsely populated by small tribes before European contact. Instead, it appears that indigenous peoples engineered large swaths of the Amazon, creating what some researchers now call cultural forests, ecosystems actively shaped by human management for thousands of years. Even the incredible biodiversity of the Amazon may partly reflect this ancient stewardship. DNA analysis from remains at these sites revealed another surprise: genetic connections between these Amazonian peoples and populations in Oceania, suggesting transpacific contact thousands of years before European exploration. The story of human migration and cultural exchange is far more complex and interconnected than traditional narratives suggested. As we wrap up our journey through 2025's discoveries, we turn to perhaps the most pressing question facing humanity: can we solve the climate crisis? This year brought answers that inspire genuine hope, not blind optimism, but evidence-based confidence that we have the tools to build a sustainable future. The breakthrough everyone's talking about is direct air capture technology that finally makes economic sense. Previous systems could pull carbon dioxide from the air, but at costs that made them impractical for large-scale deployment. New materials developed in 2025, specially designed crystalline structures that bond with CO2 molecules and release them when mildly heated, reduced costs by a factor of 10. Multiple companies are now building facilities that can remove 1 million tons of CO2 per year at costs competitive with carbon taxes and offset programs. Even more exciting, researchers have developed ways to convert that captured carbon into useful products, synthetic fuels, building materials, even raw materials for manufacturing. Carbon capture isn't just removing a pollutant, it's creating a circular carbon economy. Ocean researchers contributed another piece of the climate puzzle with the discovery of previously unknown ocean currents that sequester carbon far more effectively than climate models predicted. These currents, operating at intermediate depths, transport carbon-rich water to the deep ocean where it remains locked away for centuries. Understanding these currents allows for better climate predictions and suggests strategies for enhancing natural carbon sequestration. Meanwhile, agricultural scientists developed new varieties of crops that draw down far more carbon than conventional plants, storing it in extensive root systems that build soil health while locking carbon underground. These plants aren't genetically modified in the traditional sense, they were bred using new gene editing techniques that accelerate natural processes rather than introducing foreign DNA. Early field trials showed farms could become net carbon sinks while maintaining or even improving yields. As we look back at 2025, we see a year that expanded human possibility in every direction. We've learned to harness quantum mechanics, to read the language of consciousness, to tap the power source of stars. We've discovered hidden forms of life on our own planet, rewritten the story of our species, and found practical paths forward through our greatest challenges. But perhaps the most important discovery of 2025 isn't any single breakthrough, it's the reminder that human curiosity, ingenuity, and collaboration can solve problems that seem insurmountable. Every discovery we've discussed tonight emerged from decades of foundational work by thousands of scientists sharing ideas across borders and disciplines. These discoveries aren't endpoints, they're beginnings. The quantum computers of 2025 will enable discoveries in 2026 we can't yet imagine. The brain mapping will lead to treatments for conditions that still have no cure. The fusion reactors will provide clean energy for generations. The new life forms will teach us lessons about biology we haven't thought to ask. The climate technologies will help us build a sustainable civilization. Science isn't just about understanding the world, it's about imagining and creating better futures, then making those futures real through patient, persistent work. 2025 showed us that those futures are closer than we think. Thank you for joining us on this journey through a remarkable year. The future is being written in laboratories and field sites around the world, and if 2025 taught us anything, it's that the best chapters are still to come.